Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a topic that's becoming really important for homeowners: reliable power.
Definitely.
We've gathered a range of materials, stuff from the FranklinWH website, their FAQs, some pretty detailed product data sheets, and we're going to try and synthesize it all for you.
Right.
Our goal is pretty simple, really. Give you a clear picture of the FranklinWH home energy management system, how it works, what the pieces are, and maybe most importantly, how it keeps your home powered up, especially when the grid, well, goes down.
Exactly. We're aiming to uh, cut through some of the technical jargon, give you the essentials. Think of it like a crash course in taking more control of your home energy and, safeguarding against those outages.
Okay, so to start, what exactly is the Franklin WH system? What problem is it really solving for homeowners?
Well, in a nutshell, it's an all-in-one system designed to manage and store energy for your entire home.
All in one. Okay.
Yeah, and what's really neat is how it brings together different energy sources like your solar panels, if you've got them. PV, they call it sometimes.
Right, PV.
The regular grid, battery storage, and even backup generators.
Yeah.
It puts them all into one smart integrated unit.
So it's kind of like a central hub for all the power coming into my house.
Precisely. The main goals are really to uh, maximize the benefits if you have solar, improve your overall energy efficiency, and crucially, provide that dependable backup power when the grid fails,
Yeah.
which seems to happen more often these days.
True.
Franklin WH actually calls this energy freedom.
Energy freedom. I like that.
Yeah, it really speaks to the kind of independence it can give you.
Okay, sounds appealing. So what are the key parts? What makes up this Franklin WH system?
There are basically three main pieces we should probably focus on. First, there's the aGate. That's the intelligent control center. You could say it's the brains of the whole operation.
The brains got it.
Then you have the aPower. That's the battery storage unit, and it actually has its own inverter built right in to convert the power.
Okay.
And finally, there's the Franklin WH app that lets you monitor and manage everything, from your phone or tablet.
All right, let's start with the aGate, the brains. What makes it so smart?
Well, the aGate is really the central coordinator for everything power-related in your home. It connects your solar, the grid, the batteries, and a generator, if you choose to have one.
Hmm.
But what's really impressive is how fast it switches to backup power if the grid goes down. We're talking like less than a second.
Less than a second.
Yeah. So for you, it probably means your lights just stay on. You might not even notice a flicker. It's that seamless.
That is fast. So if the power goes out, the stuff connected to the backup system just keeps running.
Exactly, yeah, for the circuits you've decided need backup. The aGate also keeps you in the loop through the Franklin WH app.
Okay.
If the utility power's been out for, say, more than 5 minutes, you'll get a notification. And then another one when it comes back on, which helps you kind of manage your energy use during the outage.
Right, you know what's going on. Can you customize those alerts?
Oh, yeah, you can adjust the notification settings in the app to your preference.
Good. What else does this aGate handle? Sounds like it's doing a lot.
It really is. It's designed to manage power for, well, many of your essential household loads.
Yeah.
You get to decide what you want to keep running during an outage.
Right.
It's also pretty flexible with different solar setups. It works with microinverters, where each panel has its own little inverters, or string inverters, where, a bunch of panels connect to one central one.
Okay.
And for more advanced control, it has options for things they call smart circuits and generator modules.
Smart circuits and generator modules. Okay, those sound interesting. Tell me more.
Sure. So the optional smart circuits let you control individual electrical circuits in your home right from the app.
Ah, okay.
So imagine there's an outage. You could remotely turn off power to something less important, like maybe a pool pump, to save battery power.
Handy.
And the generator module lets you smoothly integrate a standby generator. So it can automatically kick in if the power's out for a long time and your battery starts getting low.
Automatic.
Yep. It can even support V2L in some setups, vehicle to load, which means you could potentially use the battery in certain EVs as an extra power source for the house.
Whoa, okay. That's cool.
And there's one more option, the main load relay. That just helps make sure the system can reliably restart itself after a really long outage, like if the battery got completely drained, a black start situation.
Okay, this is sounding pretty sophisticated. Where does this aBay actually get installed in the house?
It's pretty versatile installation-wise. It can go right at your service entrance, where the main power lines come in, or it can be connected to your main electrical panel, your load center. Or it can even be the load center itself in some configurations.
Flexible.
Yeah, and the technical specs, they tell us it's AC coupled. That means it connects on the AC side of your electrical system, which usually makes installation simpler, especially if you already have solar.
Okay.
It also comes in different voltage options to match different homes, and it has built-in safety stuff like overcurrent protection for all the connections, grid, battery, solar, generator loads.
Right, safety first.
Definitely. And it's built tough. You can install it inside or outside. It handles a pretty wide temperature range, -4 degrees Fahrenheit up to 122 Fahrenheit.
Impressive. Okay, let's switch gears to the aPower, the battery side of things. I saw there are a couple of models mentioned, the aPower X and the aPower 2. What's the main difference?
Right. So the aPower X is kind of the original battery unit. Each one gives you 13.6 kilowatt hours or kilowatt out of usable energy.
13.6 kilowatt hour. How much is that, relatively speaking?
Well, to give you a sense of scale, you could connect up to 15 of these aPower X units to one aGate. That gives you a potential total storage of 204 kilowatt hours, which is a lot.
Wow, yeah, 15 of them.
Yeah. And like the aGate, it uses a very safe battery chemistry, lithium iron phosphate, LFP.
LFP, right. Heard that's safer.
It generally is less prone to thermal runaway. It's also AC coupled, again, for easier setup. Each aPower X can put out 5 kilowatt of power continuously, and it can peak at 10 kilowatts for short bursts, like maybe 10 seconds.
What could that start?
That's enough power to kick on a pretty standard 4-ton air conditioner.
Okay, that's a big load.
It is. And it works in the cold, too, down to -4 Fahrenheit. Plus, it has an IP67 rating.
IP67, what does that mean?
That IP rating basically tells you how well it's protected against dust and water. 67 is really good, means it's dust tight and can handle being submerged in water for a short time. So, yeah, typical outdoor weather isn't a problem.
Good to know.
It also comes with a 12-year warranty, and it's designed to handle a lot of charging and discharging over its life. They measure that in aggregate throughput, and it's rated for 43 megawatt hours. That's a huge amount of energy cycled.
Okay, 43 megawatt hour. So starting at 4-ton AC is decent. What about the aPower 2? Sounds like maybe it's the bigger sibling?
You could say that, yeah. The aPower 2 is the newer, more powerful option. Each unit holds 15 kilowatt hours of usable energy, a bit more than the X.
15 kilowatt.
And you can still stack up to 15 per aGate, so that bumps the maximum potential up to 225 kilowatt hour total. It's really geared towards whole home backup and making even better use of your solar power. A single aPower 2 can actually start and run a larger 5-ton air conditioner.
A 5-ton AC on one battery. That's impressive.
It is. And it's compatible with, well, pretty much all the major solar power inverters out there.
Yeah.
You can connect up to 8 kilowatts of solar directly to a single aPower 2 unit.
So more power, more storage capacity. Anything else that makes the aPower 2 stand out?
Yeah, a few other things. It uses natural air cooling, so it runs really quietly, typically around 30 decibels, which is, pretty quiet library level.
Oh, wow.
It's also designed to be off-grid ready, meaning it can operate completely independently from the utility if needed. It comes with a longer warranty too, 15 years.
15 years, okay.
And a higher energy cycling capacity, 60 milliwatt aggregate throughput. Technically, it offers different output power options depending on how many you install, letting you tailor it more closely to your home's needs. And that very high load start capability, 185 amps LRA, that's the key to starting those big AC units.
185 LRA.
Oh, and it can apparently withstand being flooded up to 29 inches of water.
Honestly, flood resistance.
Yeah, seems so. One compatibility note, though. When it first launched, it only worked with the newer aGate version 1.3, but they expect it to be compatible with the older aGates by, looks like end of Q2 2025.
Okay, something to keep in mind if you have an older aGate.
Right, and it has slightly better round-trip efficiency too, 90%.
Round-trip efficiency, what's that exactly?
It basically measures how much of the energy you put into the battery you can actually get back out to use. 90% is quite good for AC-coupled systems. You lose a little in the conversion process.
Got it. 90%. Okay, so we've got the brains, aGate, and the muscle, aPower. What about the FranklinWH app? What can I, as the homeowner, actually do with that?
The app is essentially your window into the system, your remote control and monitoring center.
Okay.
It gives you a clear view of your energy status, what's coming in from solar, what you're using, how much battery you have left, and it lets you control certain aspects. Well, you get those important notifications. We talked about power outages, low battery warnings. You can customize those. And in, critical situations, you can manually switch it into emergency backup mode if you want to conserve power before a storm hits, for example.
Right.
And maybe one of the most crucial features, even if your home internet or cell service goes down during an outage, which happens.
Yeah, definitely.
The app can still connect directly to the aGate. It uses the aGate's own local Wi-Fi hotspot signal, or even Bluetooth. They call it System Direct Connect.
System Direct Connect. Okay, that sounds really important for staying informed when things are really down.
Exactly. Keeps you from being completely in the dark about your own power system.
Okay, now let's get to the really critical part. How does the Franklin WH system actually provide backup power when the grid fails? Walk me through that moment.
Right. So the instant the system detects a problem with the grid power, either a complete outage or maybe the voltage or frequency is just unstable, it immediately and safely disconnects your home from the utility grid. Again, this happens in less than a second. Super fast.
Right, the anti-islanding requirement.
Precisely. Then, just as quickly, it takes over. It starts supplying power to the circuits in your home that you've designated as needing backup, using the energy stored in those aPower batteries. The whole transition is designed to be incredibly smooth.
So smooth you might not even notice it.
That's the goal, keeping your essential lights and appliances running without any interruption.
And what if I have solar panels? Do they keep working during the outage?
That's a great question, and it's handled smartly. So right when the outage hits, the solar panels will initially disconnect too, mainly for safety reasons.
Okay.
But then, after about 5 minutes, the Franklin WH system will automatically try to reconnect your solar system.
Oh, okay.
If the sun's shining, the panels can then start powering your home directly and recharging the batteries simultaneously.
Nice. What if the panels are producing, like, way more power than the house needs right then?
Good point. Yeah. If the solar generation exceeds what your home is using and what the battery can take, the system intelligently manages that PV input. It might throttle it back or even temporarily disconnect the panels again if needed to prevent overcharging or system instability. It keeps checking about every 20 minutes to see if it's safe to bring the solar back online fully.
So it's constantly adjusting. Okay. That makes sense. Now, what about managing my own power usage during an outage? What can I do to make the backup power last as long as possible?
Right, because the battery isn't infinite. Technically, the system can back up anything you've connected to the backup panel, as long as the total power draw doesn't exceed the system's rating, the combined output of the aPower units.
Sure.
But the best way, the most effective way, to extend how long that backup power lasts is simply to be mindful of your energy consumption.
Like turning things off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think about reducing or maybe just postponing the use of those big energy hogs. Things like air conditioners, electric vehicle chargers, electric water heaters, even dishwashers or clothes dryers. Every kilowatt hour you save makes that stored battery energy stretch further.
Makes perfect sense. Are there any sort of proactive steps I should take to prepare for a potential outage if I have this system? Like if I know a storm is coming.
Yes, definitely some smart things you can do. If you get a warning from your utility or see a severe weather alert, it's wise to think, okay, this outage might last days, not just hours.
Right. Be realistic.
Yeah, and also remember, your solar panels might not produce much if it's really cloudy or stormy. So before the outage hits, you could proactively use the Franklin WH app to switch the system into emergency backup mode.
What does that do?
It usually prioritizes charging the battery to 100% and then keeping it there, minimizing usage from the battery until the grid actually goes down.
Ah, okay. Maximize the reserve.
Exactly. There's also a neat feature called Storm Hedge mode. If you enable that, it can automatically switch to emergency backup mode when it gets severe weather alerts from the National Weather Service.
Oh, that's smart. Automatic preparation.
Yeah. And one more thing, if you do have solar, after any bad weather, especially something like heavy snow, it's a good idea to check your panels. Safely, of course. Clear off any obstructions that might block the sun and reduce their output when you need it most.
Good practical tips. Now, what happens if I mess up, if I accidentally use too much power during an outage and overload the system?
It happens.
Yeah.
The system has built-in protections for that. If you turn on too many high-power things at once and exceed the Franklin WH system's output capacity, it might just temporarily shut down power to the house to protect itself.
Okay, it trips itself.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
If that happens, the first thing to do is turn off some of those big loads you just started. The system will then usually try to automatically restart itself within about a minute.
Okay.
But there's a catch. If it overloads repeatedly, like 20 times in a short period, it'll go into a self-locking state.
Oh.
Yeah, then you'd need to manually restart it to get power flowing again. It's trying to prevent potential damage from constant overloading.
Got it. And what about the other end of the spectrum? What if the power's out for a really long time and the energy stored in the batteries just gets really, really low?
Right. As you use power, the stored energy level, the state of charge, naturally drops. When it gets down to about 5% capacity, the system will send a low battery warning to your app.
Okay, a heads up.
Yep. It'll keep providing power until the battery is basically completely empty. At that point, it will enter a sleep mode. This is mainly to protect the battery itself from damage caused by deep discharge.
Sleep mode. That doesn't sound great if the grid is still down and the sun isn't shining. How do I get it out of sleep mode?
Yeah, sleep isn't ideal, but there's a way back. This is where the black start capability comes in.
Black start, okay.
Even when it's asleep because the battery is drained, the system is programmed to automatically wake itself up a few times during daylight hours, specifically at 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. and 2 p.m.
Oh, interesting. Why then?
to check for sunshine. It's looking to see if there's enough solar power available to start recharging the batteries.
Ah, using the solar to jumpstart itself.
Exactly. Now, if there is still a lot of appliances turned on in the house drawing power, or if maybe the solar production is suddenly too high for it to handle safely right at startup, it might fail to charge effectively and just go back to sleep.
So what can I do to help it succeed?
The best thing is to try and turn off as many non-essential appliances as possible before those scheduled wake-up times at 10, 12, and 2. Reduce the load. That gives the black start a much better chance of success. You could also try initiating a manual restart yourself if you see there's good sunlight available.
Okay, reduce load, hope for sun. What if I have a backup generator connected? How does that fit into the picture during a long outage?
The generator integration is pretty smart too, especially with permanently installed ones. If you have a generator that can sense voltage or uses a dry contact signal or is connected through an automatic transfer switch and ATS.
Right, the common types.
Yeah. The FranklinWH system can automatically start that generator when the battery's state of charge, the SOC, or percentage remaining, drops down to a low level that you can preset.
Okay, so it calls for backup automatically.
Exactly. And then, once the generator is run for a while and recharge the batteries back up to a higher preset level, the system will automatically turn the generator off again. Your home goes back to running quietly on battery power.
Oh, that's great. Saves fuel and noise.
Definitely. Conserves fuel, reduces runtime. Now, if you have a portable generator, it's more manual. You'd need to monitor the battery SOC in the app yourself and decide when to wheel it out, connect it, and start it up to recharge the batteries, then turn it off when they're full enough.
Okay, makes sense. So let's say the power stops. Maybe it went into sleep mode. Maybe it overloaded a bunch. It's in standby. How do I just get it running again? What's the basic restart procedure?
Right. So if the power's off and you suspect the system is in standby, first check your app, assuming you have connection. You might see notifications about low battery or repeated overloads. The first step is always reduce the load, turn off big energy-hungry appliances, give the system a chance.
Right.
Then you can try a simple reboot. Go to the aPower battery units, turn off the main power switches on all of them, wait about 2 minutes, give them time to fully discharge any residual power, then turn all the aPower switches back on.
Just cycle the power on the batteries.
Yep, that often does the trick for simple glitches or after clearing an overload.
What if that doesn't work? Is there like a bigger reset button?
There is. If just restarting the aPower units doesn't fix it, you can try a full system reset. On the aGate EMS, the energy management system, the brains box, there's usually a main red system control switch.
Okay, a red switch on the aGate.
Right. For this, you need to turn off that red switch on the aGate and also turn off the power switches on all the aPower units again. Leave everything off for at least 2 minutes.
2 minutes off for everything.
Yep. Then turn everything back on aGate first, maybe, then the aPowers or whatever the specific instructions say.
Yeah.
This does a complete power cycle of the entire system.
Okay, a full reboot.
Yeah.
Exactly. But if even that fails, it probably means there just isn't enough energy left in the batteries to power the system up. So at that point, you're kind of stuck waiting for either the grid power to come back on or for a successful solar black start later in the day or for your generator to kick in and start charging things up.
Right, needs some source of incoming power.
Precisely.
You mentioned earlier I could monitor the system locally if my internet goes down. Remind me how that works again. System Direct Connect.
Yeah, System Direct Connect. So if your home internet is out, and maybe your cell service is spotty too, you can still connect your phone or tablet directly to the aGate itself.
Wow.
The aGate actually broadcasts its own local Wi-Fi hotspot, kind of like your home router does, but just for the system.
Sure.
You can also connect using Bluetooth. In the FranklinWH app settings, you find the System Direct Connect option. You connect your device to the aGate's network or via Bluetooth, and then the app can talk directly to the system. You can still see the status, how much battery is left, what the loads are doing, and make some basic adjustments. It's really useful when external communication is cut off.
Definitely sounds crucial for extended outages. Okay, this all sounds really capable, but maybe a little overwhelming to figure out exactly what I need. How do I even begin to figure out the right size Franklin WH system for my specific home?
That's a common question.
Hmm.
FranklinWH actually provides a tool on their website to help with that. It's called the System Sizing Guide.
Okay, a sizing tool.
Yeah, you basically go online and enter information about your situation. Like how big is your solar panel system if you have one? What are your major appliances? How much energy do you typically use in a day? Things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Based on the info you put in, the guide crunches the numbers and gives you an estimate. It'll suggest an optimal system size, usually telling you how many aPower battery units it thinks you'd need.
An estimate. Okay, is that estimate definitive?
Well, they always recommend, and this is important, that you treat it as a starting point.
Right.
You should always confirm that estimate with a qualified professional installer.
Right, someone who can look at my actual house.
Exactly. They can do a proper assessment of your specific energy needs, your electrical setup, your roof space if solar is involved, local regulations, all that stuff. They'll give you the final accurate recommendation.
Good advice. Okay, so we've talked a lot about backup power, which is obviously a huge driver for these systems. But what are some of the other benefits? What does that energy freedom phrase really mean day to day beyond just outage protection?
That's a great point. It's definitely not just about outages. A big part of it is that energy independence, being less reliant on the utility grid all the time.
How so?
Well, the system intelligently manages all your energy sources, solar, battery, grid. It can optimize how and when you use energy from each source to potentially lower your overall electricity bills.
Like avoiding peak rates.
Exactly. If your utility has time of use rates, where electricity costs more during certain hours, the system can prioritize using your stored solar power from the battery during those expensive peak times and recharge the battery later when grid power is cheaper or from solar the next day. That's called load shifting or peak shaving.
Ah, okay. Smart savings.
Yeah. And just generally, it provides a very robust and reliable power supply. We talked about its ability to start big loads like ACs. It runs quietly, it's water resistant, it's built to last.
Right.
Plus, its compatibility with lots of different solar inverters makes it a good choice whether you're putting in a brand new solar plus storage system, or if you already have solar and just want to add battery backup later, that's called a retrofit.
Retrofit. Okay.
And in many places, installing battery storage like this, especially with solar, can help you qualify for various incentives, tax credits or rebates, which can bring the cost down. Always good to look into incentives. It sounds like a pretty solid package for homeowners. But what about the folks installing these? Is it a nightmare for electricians and solar installers? Franklin WH seems to have put thought into that too. They emphasize that the system is installer-friendly. The design is modular, which usually makes handling easier. They even offer an optional accessory, like a special lifting dolly, to help move and mount the heavy aPower batteries more easily and quickly.
A dolly, huh? Okay.
They claim the average commissioning time, that's the process of getting the system set up and running after physical installation, is only about 15 minutes, which is pretty fast.
15 minutes. Wow.
Yeah. They also offer services like reviewing the electrical line diagrams beforehand, which can help installers get quicker approval from local building departments or utilities.
That could save headaches.
Definitely. And they also talk about providing dedicated support for installers, both before the sale and afterwards if issues come up. Plus, professional training, webinars, even co-marketing support to help installers grow their business selling these systems. And they make a point of mentioning a stable supply chain, which has been a big issue for some manufacturers.
Right, availability matters. It's good to hear they're supporting the installers too.
Yeah.
Do they share any stories, like examples of where these systems are actually installed and working in real homes?
They do, yeah. They highlight a few interesting case studies. For instance, there's a historic property in Glastonbury, Connecticut. They installed an aGate and 3 aPower X units, giving them over 40 kilowatts of storage, helping modernize the home's energy while respecting its history.
Okay.
Then there's a really large home down in Bourne, Texas. That one has a massive system. 4 aGates and 16 aPowers, adding up to 218 kilowatts of storage. That's huge.
Wow, 218 kilowatts.
Yeah, serious backup. They also mentioned a home in Fort Myers, Florida, obviously an area prone to hurricanes, where just a single aGate and 1 aPower unit provided crucial resilience after major weather events hit the area.
Just one battery making a difference there.
Exactly. And another example from Fort Worth, Texas, where a homeowner uses their system, I think it was an aGate and 3 aPowers, for both daily cost savings through that smart energy management and for reliable protection against grid outages.
So different scales, different primary motivations, but the system seems adaptable.
That's what these examples suggest, yeah. Versatile enough for different homes and different needs, from basic backup to large-scale energy management.
These real-life stories definitely help paint a picture of the practical benefits. Okay, so as we start to wrap up our deep dive today, what are the main takeaways, the key things you want listeners to remember about the Franklin WH system?
I think the big picture is that the Franklin WH system really offers a complete integrated solution for managing your home's energy. Its core strengths are, one, providing that seamless backup power during outages.
Seamless is key.
Right. Two, intelligently bringing together and managing all those different energy sources, solar, grid, battery, generator. And three, ultimately giving you, the homeowner, significantly greater energy independence and control over your power.
Right. So it's really about empowering you, the listener, to kind of take charge of your home's energy future, reduce that dependence on a grid that maybe isn't always reliable,
Unfortunately, yeah.
and gain that peace of mind, knowing you'll have power when you really need it most. Is that a fair summary?
That's a perfect summary.
Yeah.
Exactly. And maybe one final thought to leave people with is just to consider how having a system like this could fundamentally change your relationship with energy. Think about that added resilience, that potential for peace of mind, especially, as you said, with outages seeming more frequent. It really prompts you to think about your own energy needs and, well, how prepared you want to be for whatever might come next.